So, I've got a question for you. How long is it since you thought about the Roman Empire? As odd a question it may seem, a pretty wild TikTok trend seems to suggest that most men think about it every day, which personally I find both fascinating and also slightly reassuring, as it means I can't be the only one. But alas, the Roman Empire, like that of so many great empires, did ultimately fall. And discussing the downfall of the Roman Empire or any other could go on for days, and over many drinks no doubt. So enter Thomas Cole, and in particular his collection of 5 paintings entitled The Course of Empire. Painted between 1833 and 1836, these 5 paintings, all of which depict the same coastal valley of an imaginary city, chart the rise and fall of a great civilization. And while they're not based upon a real historic city, they nonetheless showcase the very beautiful architecture characteristic of ancient Rome or Greece, and give us a small glimpse into the rise and fall of a high trust society. So let's have a look at each of the 5 paintings of The Course of Empire by Thomas Cole. So the first of the 5 paintings depicts the breaking of a new dawn upon what Cole named the savage state. In this first painting we get a glimpse into the early human habitation of the area. We see a hunter in pursuit of a fleeing deer, canoes upon the river, and a small settlement, aside of which people dance as the fire burns. Its smoke disappearing into the chaotic skies of a stormy morning. The mood presented in this image is one of uncertainty, as the first rudiments of society take form. We also get to see early forms of craft in the form of canoes, huts, and weaponry. But overall, we see a land largely unchanged by human hands. Painting number 2. So this one's known as the Arcadian state, or the pastoral state. And this is indeed the same setting, but the view is slightly shifted further up the river. So take note of that lonely boulder atop of the mountain, because that remains a feature throughout the 5 paintings, preceding and outlasting the empire's rise and fall. In this painting we see that much time has passed. The skies have cleared, making way for the clear morning sky, and the gradual advancement of society is visible. Humans have learnt to cultivate the land, and we are able to see a field being ploughed and shepherds tending to their flock. There's a degree of order not previously present within the savage state, in this rather romantic image of a dawning European civilization. We see a child is free to draw on his own, a philosopher is contemplating, and people dance to the tune of a pipe as culture and the arts now flourish. Humans themselves seem at peace with the land in this pre-urban Greek setting. The strong bonds have yielded their fruits, and where there was once a small settlement, now there is a village that grows beside the shore. Atop of the village sits a constructed temple that bears a striking resemblance actually to Stonehenge. Upon the river we see that a ship, possibly a warship, is being constructed. This may be a hint at the ambitions of such a civilization that are to come. But generally speaking, the feeling I get from this picture is an air of calm. The savagery we've seen in the initial painting has subsided, and in it we see a degree of peace and of freedom, and certainly a civilization that's conducive to the advancement of science, fine arts and craft. So, painting number 3, the consummation of empire. Now we see the viewpoint has shifted, and the focus of the image is the river. In the last painting we've seen a little village growing, but now of course we see that the people are thriving in a major, glorious city, certainly in its golden age. The river itself is lined with colonnaded marble structures, as Minerva, the god of wisdom and a pillar of virtue, looks upon the thriving civilization. The image is certainly one of celebration, as we see the joys of the crowds gathered upon the river, witnessing the victorious scarlet-robed king as he returns in triumphant procession. The image itself is striking, and it could be interpreted a number of ways. One of which could be a reimagining of the heights of ancient Rome. We also see the eagle, the very emblem of the Roman Empire. The scene is acknowledged to be a near midday setting in the early autumn, and though euphoric on the surface, and filled with ornamental embellishments, it also does display elements of decadence. And now we also see that there are children misbehaving, while the nearby adults are disinterested in such behaviour as the procession takes place. Painting number 4, Destruction. Now we see the city in a state of turmoil, and seemingly under attack from an enemy fleet. The invaded forces have seemingly overwhelmed the city's defences and have left the inhabitants to fend for themselves. And in this image we get a real sense of urgency and of movement. There is panic conveyed within the image as we see men are slaughtered and women are seized. One woman is actually seen leaping atop of the battlement rather than be taken captive. Fire has broken out within the temples and indeed the palace, its smoke suffocating the sky. And the bridge where we see the triumphant king returning has now been destroyed. The level of damage we see suggests that there has been fierce contention. The city, however, is still putting up a fierce battle, but things are desperate, as we see the city in essence losing its fight for survival. There is a great sense of panic and foreboding within the people we see in the image. Though invasion via a savage enemy seems the most likely cause, internal disputes and civil disorder also seem to be somewhat implicated in the downfall. We see two men in the fountain. One is dressed in green and is seen resting atop of the other, possibly contemplating the heavy price his civilization is paying. And interestingly, this mirrors the two boys we've seen in the previous painting. So, finally we come to painting number 5, titled Desolation. Here, finally, we see the results of a conflict long time gone. The sun is setting, and the great civilization that once was is now returning into the wilderness. The dusk evening, with the day fading away, mirrors that of the civilization. The sunrise we've seen in the first painting is now contrasted by a moonrise. The only remains of the once great architectural city now emerge from beneath trees and ivy. The image itself and the painting has moved back and now exposes a single column, now a nesting place for birds, with the only life now visible to be that of wildlife. The temple and the triumphal bridge are still recognisable, but the proud civilization is no more, and the chaos of battle is over. The empire itself is extinct, with nature slowly but surely reclaiming the land. And with that, the course of empire is complete. It is often said that this work reflects Cole's pessimism. And one of the most fascinating elements of this work, and one of the most interesting things to ponder, is how accurate the cycle is to real life. Is this, in a very general sense of course, the way societies rise and fall? And if so, it begs the question as to where we are within this cycle at the moment. Many in Western Europe, and the example I'll use is the UK, actually look back to a safer world in which traditional values govern the land. They look to a world in which we lived in a high trust society, free to put honesty boxes out on the street, and with the freedom to let children play out in the streets until the sun went down. A world in which people took pride in their homes and in their wider communities at large. And people draw from this that the UK is in decline. So the question as to whether the West is in decay and social decline, or on the other hand is thriving, is a question. And regardless of whether we are talking about an ancient fictional land, like the one that Thomas Cole brought to life, or the very real world today, history does often rhyme. And so these paintings are fascinating to ponder over. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Take care.